we need to do stuff now today for getting to net zero.
We also need a change of the way we actually do things.
So we can really achieve the climate goal that we ought to achieve.
But we also need to be thinking about how we're consuming energy and how we're using this energy.
There's going to have to be a lot of learning done, right?
In terms of policy ought to provide certainty.
We all talked about the mitigation issues to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions.
You need to think about the scale of the magnitude of the problem.
Because people see certainty that we'll have to get there.
Been a lot of money until now that has gone mainly to energy generation and think about renewables, and then mobility and transportation. Really think about mobility, really think about micromobility, right? So massively over-indexed areas, but there's other things that are left behind, which is a built environment, as I've mentioned, agriculture, as I've mentioned, industrials, partnering with the right people who have knowledge on the space, corporations, governments, which all together we can bring a better solution.
Transitioning to a carbon neutral world will really need economic and industrial, structural transformation. So the sheer volume can only be done by new business models. So we launched actually what we call Tan Life platform in China last year. So the idea is actually very simple, is to how do we more efficiently link demand with supply, with investors, with startup projects, potential users of new technology and potential providers of a new technology. See reasonable success and quite high level of activity beyond what we expected.
It's really important to create an ecosystem for the private sector or government-funded organization transfer the technology to each other or to the other countries so they can get enough fund for the project as well.
On climate change, in terms of policy ought to provide certainty. Right. One example is in China, when China announced the 2030, 2060 carbon neutrality targets, then the whole industry just got mobilized.
In nuclear and in fission and fusion, it seems like there's a lot of governments trying to pick a technology, which is really fraught with difficulty for lots of reasons. It would be so much simpler and actually probably quite a lot better if they articulated the need and the price that they're willing to pay for it. If the government was to say in 2040 or in the 2040s, we need this amount of clean baseload power and we would pay this price for it. From my point of view, speaking to investors, that just removes a whole category of risk about whether the market is there and what price and all of that.
Not all countries are the same in terms of their readiness to climate action. Because let me take the example of digitalization. The first, everyone knows it takes a lot of energy to digitalize or the digital transformation or AI or anything related to digital technologies. So, but for some countries, it's not enough. They are lacking of energy.
Maybe I wanted to just finish with a thought, which is that is a way of trying to continue doing the same things that we're doing, just bigger and more, right? For more people, for more of humanity, for for growth, for consumption. And I think as a society, we need to do a deep dive into and reflect around the way that, for example, we consume, that we need things, because there's many things, for example, that maybe we don't need to consume them in the same way, we don't need to produce them in the same way, and we can have a much more, we can foster a much more collaborative approach, a much more community-based approach on many of the things which would do us good, and at the same time would reduce, would decarbonize. So
that is an excellent way to wrap up the discussion. I wish we had more time. I do. Unfortunately, we've got a hard out. So I want to thank all of our panelists today. And thank you so much for coming and for the questions, and have a great Web Summit.